I'm 36 years old. I'm still single. I've been single for most of my adult life, and I've finally figured out why. I used to believe that all I needed to do was focus on my passions, live life to the full, identify the qualities I wanted in a partner, and eventually I'd attract the perfect person into my life. And I now realize that approach is complete bullshit. I've finally figured out what the problem is, and in this video, I'm going to share with you what I've figured out. Before we begin, I'm back in Saigon with my brother Lachlan Brown. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel. New videos are coming out soon. We're on our way to get a new computer cable for Lachlan. We're going to show you parts of Saigon on the way, and then we're going to explain why I'm still single and how it's relevant to any other single people out there. Thank you. Bye. I figured out this approach to visualizing the perfect partner, thinking about that over and over, and focusing on your passions was all based on the ideas of the law of attraction, as though you can just magically attract the right person into your life. And I realized that that was taking responsibility out of my own hands. I realized I needed to take responsibility for my own life. I've been single for most of it. Maybe there's something wrong with me. And then I came across attachment theory in an amazing article by Mark Manson, the author. And that's where he goes through the idea that we create emotional dependencies in all of our relationships. And there are 4 kinds of relationships that people go through. And I realized that one of them described me perfectly. I'm going to describe the 4 types of relationships as described by attachment theory. Stick with me. All right, just looking for the little brother. There he is. Every chance he gets, always working on those massive muscles. Okay, I got my little bro back from the chin-up bar. We're heading to find him a computer cable. So this video is about the fact I'm still single and finally figured out why. You know that article on IdeaPod, right? Yeah. So it's all about attachment theory, and attachment theory was created in the 1950s by psychology researchers, and what they figured out is that people develop these attachment strategies because we create emotional dependencies. When you feel an emotional connection with someone and then your needs are not met in that relationship, it actually comes from the way we're brought up in childhood. It comes from our family upbringing, and there's 4 kinds of attachment strategies that people developed. Well, you know, I've been dating for a while, right? I've always thought that the problem was in the partners I was finding, that I could never quite find that really deep connection. And then I realized that the problem is actually me. It's not actually the problem with the people I'm finding, but maybe I've got some unmet needs, some deep psychological issues deep down. I want to describe them in this video. That's what this is all about. Maybe it's really this. That's my little smart-ass brother getting his laptop cable, hopefully. It's a possibility, it could be my bald head that is actually what keeping me single, but if not for that, if it's not the physical aspects, I do think that attachment theory has a lot to share. We're going to go through the 4 types right now. Yep. Oh, in the corner, okay. Oh yeah? Whereabouts? That's Street, 92. Alright. Let's go, bro. Now, we can't find my cable here, so we're going to go to another street where all the computer technology is. Let's go. The first attachment type is the secure type. These people are comfortable displaying interest and affection. They can handle rejection easily. They can be very independent in a relationship while also being attached at the same time. Research says that 50% of people are of the secure attachment type. People who are type 1, secure type, usually had their needs met when they were young, when they were infants. with wonderful love and attention from their family members. And I figured out that based on my behavior as an adult, I am not the secure type. It's got nothing to do with the way I was brought up. I'm very lucky to have a very loving family, but it's much more of an internal psychological experience. It could come from my own insecurity as an infant, but the result has been that unfortunately I have not been a type 1 secure type in my life. Stick with me to find out what type I am, and let's figure out at the end what type you might be. So like on the second type of attachment type you've written about in a few of your articles for Hack Spirit. This is the anxious type. You know the kind of people who get really insecure and they always want to check someone's phone for the text messages? Don't want to date those people. Definitely don't date those people. They're also the people that don't like to be alone and that want to always check up on who you're meeting up with and things like that. So they're very anxious about themselves and their place in the relationship. It's the most difficult person to have a relationship with. I'd say that for me, I used to have elements of the anxious type. Probably a bit more insecure when I was a bit younger. I think I've largely grown out of it because type 3 is a bit more what I'm all about.
You're alright, bro.
Okay, so we've found a place where we can get the charger for this. It's what we've been doing the whole day. So it's exciting times. I'm sure you guys are very excited. Tinder? No.
It works? Yeah.
The third type of attachment strategy is the avoidant type. These people are extremely independent, very comfortable being alone, and very uncomfortable with intimacy. It's the sort of person who has problems with commitment, the sort of person who creates a lifestyle to justify why they always need to be alone. It's also been me. I realized that I've created a lifestyle where I move from country to country and completely focused on my business, and I realized that I was using this as an excuse. I would meet these people and I would use the excuse that they just weren't quite right for me to then justify why I needed to not live with commitment in a committed relationship. And I realized that I am an avoidant type. It often stems from childhood, from having your needs not met. As I said, in my case, I come from a very stable and happy family, but often it's based on your own very internal experience, your very psychological experience of childhood growing up. And I know I was quite an insecure kid at times. I think that many of you can probably relate to that. Life is complex. Sometimes it's tough. Your first day at school, you feel a little bit nervous. And in my case, I think that I must have carried something through so that in my adult life, I've avoided getting into those very intimate situations. But the beautiful thing is that once I realized that that was my attachment type, I also realized that I can start to take responsibility for myself, and I can start to create the circumstances in my life to become a more secure kind of person. I feel like I'm already taking those steps. They're already in place. I can take responsibility for it. But now we're going to talk about attachment type number 4. So the fourth type is the anxious avoidant type. This is the fearful type, the kind of person who is scared of intimacy, but also gets incredibly anxious with someone whenever they try to get close to them. They're often alone, but they feel terrible for being alone. It stems from very abusive childhoods. It's a terrible state to be in, and I feel a huge amount of compassion for anyone who's stuck in this state. So what kind of attachment types date each other? Well, when secure people can meet each other, that's obviously the best kind of relationship to be in, but often anxious and avoidant people find each other. You see, the anxious person drives away the avoidant person, and the avoidant person feels okay in that situation because they're getting the space they need, but it creates kind of a cycle where they're always chasing each other in that way. It's not a good place to be in. But often the secure attachment types can date either the avoidant or the anxious types and help the avoidant or anxious people to sort of level up with their behavior. Secure people keep the relationship going, they keep it stable, and they keep the other person in line. And then of course there's the anxious avoidant types who often end up with each other in a very unstable, very tough relationship to be in, responsibility for myself. And I think that's really the message here. When you start to learn about these different attachment types, you can take responsibility for your relationships. You don't need to rely on the law of attraction, the magic fairy tale partner who exists out there if you just constantly visualize them. It doesn't work that way. Life is not such a simple fairy tale. Life requires hard work. Life requires taking responsibility. And that for me has been the beauty of this attachment theory. If you found any use in this video, please hit the subscribe button so that you can see more videos like this, and also leave me a comment. Let me know what kind of attachment type you are and what your dating life or your relationship life is like. Look forward to seeing you on the next video.